Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam Grammaticus, here for another word museum. Sorry, I'm wearing my cloak because I'm going to talk about fellowship today and companions. I see this is obviously a very common theme, you could say, in fantasy, whether you have something like the Fellowship of the Ring, which has the Nine Walkers, or you have something like the duo of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, or something with like a someone with a sidekick, right, type of thing, which, I could think of plenty for that. But anyways, I wanted to go over some words, again, some etymologies. This is from my interest, this stems from my interest in philology as well as speculative fiction, or particularly in this series of Word Museum of fantasy literature. And so we're going to look at words from Elfland first, right? If you've read Le Guin's from Elfland and Poughkeepsie, we're going to look at some words that you are more likely to see actually in like fantasy writing, in novels and whatnot. And then we'll look at just a couple words that you'd see more in Poughkeepsie, if you will. So the first one we're going to look at is the word companion itself, actually. So this is actually a late Latin calque. A calque being a loan translation, so it's when you have a word in one language and instead of just borrowing it, like, I don't know, I guess you could use the word like, well, I don't know, like calculator, right? Calculator looks really similar in most languages. German will calque a lot of things, actually. Um, but you won't say, oh, calculator, and make it sound like whatever your language would make it sound like, but you'll actually take it and you'll translate it into something that sounds more native, right? So companion comes from late Latin, but late Latin got it from Germanic languages, actually. Probably Frankish, Galaibo, maybe Germanic Gachlaibo, or Gachlaibo, something like that. So, which just means messmate. This Ga would just signify together, kind of with chlabo, which is bread, right? It's loaf. So where we get the word loaf. So it's a doublet. Companion is a doublet of company as well, which is where we also get the French word copain, which looks like co-pain, pain being bread in French. Of course, or pain, that's how you say it. But this would have displaced the native English yevera, or yefera, I think, actually, in this case, which would just mean fellow traveler. The ye, which is spelled G-E, by the way, denoting the same thing as the G-A in Guy Libel. But fera would be fair, like to fare, I'm faring to my office or something, right? To record a video in a cloak for some reason. Right, to fare. You don't really hear that word all that much, but it means to go, obviously, or to travel. And then we have another word, right? So that's companion. Then we have compeer, which is a word you actually like. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say out loud besides myself. Compeer, Compeer. So it's not actually related to the word peer, like, pure France or something like that, right? Though this has influenced the spelling. And so it actually is really compater, right? So with father, or really this signifies a joint father, like a godfather, right? This is what a compeer is, at least originally speaking. It's actually related to compadre, right? Which we've used in English somewhat from influence. I don't hear very many people use, but I've heard it generally used as like kind of a joke term. But Goomba actually is a Sicilian or a Neapolitan, and it means the same thing. So it just sounds cooler. It sounds funnier, Goomba. Anyways, that's compeer. And then comrade is of a similar origin, you could say, as computer. It's a little different, though, of course, but it just means like Latinate, rather, or romantic, or italic, whatever. So we have comrade, which comes from Middle French camarada, from Spanish camarada, or Italian camerata. And this would, whether it comes from Spanish or Italian or is influenced by both, those would have come from Latin camera, right, or camera. But this is where we actually get our modern word camera, right, which just means a room, by the way. It's also where we get the word chamber, would be chambre in modern French. And so this idea of a comrade, I believe, comes from I don't know, like Renaissance, medieval idea that soldiers would share a room, right? Would have this camaraderie between them, right? Um, Hence, comrade, right? You are my roommate, type of thing. So interesting. Again, I think these are all very interesting, actually. Comrade, compeer, and companion. And then we're going to look at fellow, though. This one looks a bit more English. It does have more of an English origin, um, but not entirely, actually, as well. So in Old English, which actually comes from the Old Norse felaki, or felachi, or something like that. But anyways, fe here, fe, denotes property. Actually, it's where we get the English word fee, the Old English word feoch, which means like cattle. This is also related to the Proto-European would have been pecu. It sounds the exact same in Latin, P-E-C-U, as how it normally is in Latin. It's where we get the idea of pecuniary, which, is related to money, type of thing. And it also has that cattle sense as well. I think it depends on what animal it is, depending on what language. Oftentimes it's cows. I think sometimes it's sheep. The laga means togetherness here, with togetherness with property, right, type of thing. So this laga is actually related to the word law. And so together, this fellow, right, means partner, colleague, companion, right? And then ship doesn't really need any explanation. It just, it means ship. So it's a partnership, a fellowship. You put that on top of nouns to make it a different type of noun. You can actually do that with a few. It's related to a ton of other endings, actually. And sometimes you can swap them. Like there's obvious, like freedom, which is one we like use in modern English, but free ship means the same thing. You would just never hear anyone say free ship. But anyways, back to fellows and companion stuff, getting maybe to the more obvious words here, actually, and still very interesting, is friend. Now, friend actually basically denotes a loved one. It comes from a Proto-Germanic verb, fria, which means to love, and it also means to free, and it is related to the word free as well. And I think that's quite beautiful, actually, to be honest. A word that means both to love and to free, and it's the same thing. It's very interesting, and that's what friend means, really, is someone that you love, right? And then we have an older word, which you're probably not going to see very much in fantasy, but I'm going to give you some examples here. And that is wina, or wine, as you might hear it said in modern English. It is spelled exactly like the drink wine. This is an Old English word that actually never appears in prose in the Old English corpus. It's always in poetry. And it survives in modern English in names like Baldwin and Godwin, that win aspect, right? And it means friend, right, essentially. It's essentially what it means. It's actually related to the Latin word Venus or Venus, right? And you can have it you see it in some like kennings, like Guthwina, which is war friends, which would be the attackers, actually, in Old English. So this comes from Proto-Indo-European wen, with the first type of H on the end there, that root, which is where which that root itself means to wish, seek, desire, love, and win. So a lot of things, and it's related to our words wish, ween, one, win, wonder, win, not as in like victory win, but as in like joy. I have a poem I wrote that's called like My Win Ones, right? I think you'll hear win only in like a Scottish context these days. In that sense, you do see this in the name Eowyn. If you read Lord of the Rings, Eowyn, Eoch is horse. It's related to the word equestrian, right? Equus. That word does not survive in English, but Eowyn is Old English name. Horse joy is that win. Horse joy, right? So that win. And then you also see this wine or wina in another Tolkien legendarium thing, Alfwin or Alfwina, which is an early Tolkien legendarium. Like, it's actually like the main guy if you read some of his earliest stuff. And it's like he's the one who found this road, and he goes to Tolaresia, if I'm remembering correctly, and hears a lot of these stories of like the elves or the gnomes, if you would. So those are all the Elfland words, right? We have companion, computer, comrade, fellow, friend, and wina or wine. And then we also have some Poughkeepsie words I thought would just be fun to look at real quick. We have buddy, which has not entirely sure where it comes from, but it either comes from bruddy, which is a childish way of saying brother, or maybe a French-ish origin of bouton, which just means booty, like, like prize booty, like a pirate and his booty type of stuff. I'm not really sure which one I'd agree with more. I kind of like the idea of it being the childish, like bruddy type of thing. So, and then the other one, which I think has a really interesting etymology, is pal, right? Which you're almost certainly not going to hear that one, I feel like, in fantasy, except for maybe in like some military fantasy or something that is, I don't know, maybe Zelazny says it. I have no clue. But this actually comes from Anglo-Romani, which Paul or pal. I'm not entirely sure if that's an N or all. I didn't look it up. I should have. But that itself comes from the Romani pral. I'm not sure. It's a PH. I'm not sure. I could not figure this one out, actually. I did look this one up, but I couldn't figure it out if it was a PH as an F, like a F in like Greek, or if it's a PH as an aspirated. I feel like it's just I feel like it's just a pral or something like that, which means brother. That's all it means, actually. Pal means brother. It's a doublet, even because Romani is related. It comes from Sanskrit, so it's related to English through that. And so that would be a doublet with brother or friar and other things. So, yeah. That's basically it. This has gone on a little longer than I would have liked, but I hope this was useful. Maybe you have a better idea of fellowship and companions in fantasy literature and just with the words in general. If you have any other suggestions you'd like me to do for this word museum thing, let me know. I will catch you next time.